updates you might be able to share, and then we'll let you drop off unless you're interested in this topic.
That's a great plan. Thank you. Hey, so we did offer a lady a position here, and she's being vetted right now from Long and Foster. We're pretty confident she's going to be joining us here very soon, you know, unless she robbed a bank or something like that we don't know about.
Right.
But her name's Barbara Smallwood. She's a great, has a lot of processing experience. So we hope to have her very shortly. Also, I wanted to put a plug for this class that we're having next Wednesday at 1 o'clock for 2 hours, CLE or PLE, whichever you need. It's all free. And it's going to be 1099-S, cash reporting, FERPTA, and federal issues at closing. Matt does a great job of asking questions. The 2 hours really fly by fast. So if you're interested, email me with your license number and you can get on that call. Also, today we are in the midst of, we had a seller that is in Mexico, right? Well, we thought they were going to be here longer than they were, and then we'd have them signed traditionally, right? So we're using this technology called Ron. And Ron is going to enable them to sign remotely in Mexico, their deed and everything, and get this transaction closed. Now, there's a couple rules about Ron. And one thing, we have the buyer, and the buyer's using Prosperity. Okay, so not all the lenders will accept Ron as an e-notary. And not all the cities will accept the e-notary. But with this one, it's City of Chesapeake, they will, and Prosperity, they will. So we're going to get this done. I think it's going to happen tomorrow. But the closing's not for about a week or two. So if you ever have sellers that took off, or we needed to get something done, let's not panic, because we have some technology that we can get it done one way or another. So I'm real excited about this, because many times comes up, the seller's nowhere to be found, and we have to get something, all of a sudden the buyer's ready to close. What do we do? So this is going to be a good thing for us. And Prosperity's on board with it. It's approved. We spent a lot of time yesterday trying to get this thing ironed out, but we are good to go. So just shows you that we've got a lot of tools that a lot of other companies just don't have, like our calculator, the hello sign for your cash buyers, and now sellers, some remote deed signings. So the technology is out there. Marvella, we saw one of your nice sellers yesterday here, so thank you.
Certainly.
So, but anyway, it's a great month. It's record after record. That's why we were able to hire Barbara here. So we'll have another face or another email there to help us out. So we're really excited. Growth is great, and everybody's been great to work with through this pandemic. So we really take our hats off to y'all. Appreciate your support.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love it. In fact, I think that's going to be something we continue to see more and more of, I'm sure.
Right.
And there's going to be less face to face, which, it's good, it's bad. I mean, I love going to closing, especially with, a happy buyer, happy seller. Those are great opportunities for us to generate referrals and take pictures and celebrate the accomplishment. But it sounds like technology is going to probably alter the way we do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you being here, man.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Yep. Oh, cool. Who's ready to do a CMA?
You.
Oh, me. All right. Very good. Just me. Telephone.
Somebody's got to take a phone call.
What is the CMA? A comparative market analysis. is an estimate of a home's value based on recently sold similar properties in the immediate area, right? And so this is our definition of CMA, and this is what we're going to try to accomplish today. And like I mentioned, this is a property that I'm not, and I've not actually seen this property, so it should be interesting, and I do intend to share my results with the seller, so that should be pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm going to start by showing you guys what I like to. Wait a minute, hang on, bear with me. So my CMA resources, you guys see this? AVM resources? Yes? You got to nod your heads or something.
Yes,
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
when I ask
yes.
a question like that. Okay, I just don't want to be looking at a screen that you're not seeing. So,
Yep.
this is how I always start. You know, if somebody gives me an address and wants to know the approximate valuation, I start with the online resources and the online automated valuation models. Not because obviously Zillow and this estimate is not necessarily correct, but because it gives me a starting point, and it allows me to find those brackets, you know, maybe what the high and the low are. And so my plan for today is to take this property address and look at these individual resources and then generate that idea based on the automated valuation models. And then we'll go into RAIN and actually pull comps, sold comps, pending comps, contingent CMA, because that would be then how I shared that result with my seller. So I anticipate this to take a little bit of time. So it is being recorded. If you get too bored, just sign off and we'll email you the link. I'll look to when I try to find comps. So, but from this point here, what we can do is click over to the tax record, because that's where I start. And it moves a little bit slower apparently when we're screen sharing. So here I've got owner information and Mr. Terry Plymouth, and nobody better call him because he called me.
Well, I have a buyer.
FYI. So
I have a buyer, Jason.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I got to get the listing first.
Okay.
So the tax assessment on this property as of 2019 was 166.4. Okay. And so that's a starting point, right? I know what the city or the county thinks of this property in terms of its value. Obviously, they don't know the property's condition any better than I do. And historically, assessments in our area are a little lower than the actual AVM and the RVM range. And so the AVM says this property might be worth 177,000 or a range of 170 to 184. Okay. And so for me, I don't necessarily write this information down or document this information. I just like to have this information. Okay. And then what I also want to do is, did you guys see me switch the screen over here to my Long and Foster website? Okay. So I like this too, because there are so many valuation models out there on the internet, and all of them say something a little bit different. And so for me, you know, I enjoy taking in the input and seeing what it says. So I'm okay with that. So in this case, the Long and Foster valuation model says 181, right? So a little bit higher than the realist property tax valuation model. And it pulls up some comps in the neighborhood just off of Briarfield. So it looks like all of the comps are certainly within proximity. So there may be some variation of relevance there. And so for me, this is good information. I like to know what the computers think of my property or potential property. So we had 177 versus, you know, Long and Foster's valuation model of 181. So So we're still close. We're in the range, right? So let's see if I go to Zillow, 18 Sunbriar Way in Hampton. Look at that. So Zillow was 197. Maybe they're overly optimistic. Maybe they're not. Don't know yet. Too early to tell. But again, this is the kind of information that I look for so that I know what ballpark I should expect to find when I'm looking at comps. Okay. And then this one. Do you guys use NARRPR or the RPR Realtor Property Resource? I've been using it for a long time. I really, really like it. And it's great for doing CMAs. It works really well in my experience. And sometimes what I've done, and I'll show you a little bit later, but sometimes what I've done is I'll take the RPR report, load that into Moxie Present, and present that as my CMA. That's not what we're going to do today, but you do have that option. So the RPR RVM model says 190,000, and it's got a 5-star confidence rating, which means that they have enough data to feel very, very confident in this valuation, which I find really helpful. Sometimes you'll see 2 stars or 3 stars and they're not very confident. And so then, you know, I don't think it's very helpful. But in this case, they've given us a range of 173 to 208 with the RVM confidence rating of 5 stars at 190,000. So I like that. That's very, very good information for me when I'm looking at comps. I know which way to tilt the scale, if you will. And then through the RVM or the RPR, if you click on that details section, it shows you the comps that it used in order to come up with that confidence rating and that valuation. So pretty cool. If you guys aren't using this, I find it incredibly helpful. So definitely want to consider that a resource. Okay. And then let's see if I can get you back over here. There we go. All right. Let's see. Bear with me. I move my buttons around. No, I kind of lost myself a little bit there. So, all right. So let's close this. Close this. Definitely close the calendar. I got to start over again. Everybody's still with me. Cool. I haven't logged out yet. So, all right, let me go back. Start fresh. All right, cool. So hopefully you guys are seeing this and this. And so from this point now, I feel like I know, you know, my property should be in the range of 170 to maybe 200,000, depending on its condition. And so when I go into RAIN now and start looking for comps, obviously bedrooms, bathrooms, age are really, really important. But condition plays such a major role in our property valuation. And there's no way for me to really know that. I don't even have any pictures in the MLS in this particular listing. So let's see if I can find another time maybe it was listed. And so 2010, 2012, 93. So let's check this one just to see. Okay, so now we've got some pictures. So we can have some indication of what to expect in terms of condition, unless they've done some renovations. And at this point, I just don't know. I haven't seen the property yet, so I don't really know what to expect. So I'm going to go forward with the information that I do have, schedule a listing appointment to go over and see the property, and I'll go over there with a range of value depending on its condition, generally. Okay, and so again, we went, let's see, we're going to go back here. This is our most recent sale, and we know we're in area 104 and neighborhood 272. So what I do is I'll come up here to search, I'll right click on residential, and I'll open link in new tab. That way I can keep this one open for reference, but I can also start a brand new search. So I think that's really helpful. So I'm going to go to area 104, the neighborhood 272. 104, and then subdivision 272. Click on that. So we got no matches for active, but I want to add sold, pending. Those are generally the ones that I look to. And I want to make sure that I'm not discounting for any crazy contingencies. You know, if it's under contract or something, I still want to know about it. But because my default search screen excludes properties that are contingent and under contract, I had to go down and adjust that. So at this point, I've got 5 matches that I know are in the same neighborhood, subdivision number 272, as my subject property. And so I'm pretty visual, so I always go to the map first, just to see where they are in proximity to my subject property. Okay, and so I see this one. I have a 3-bed 2-bath, and this is a 4-bed 2-bath, but it's under contract. And so we'll take a look at it here. This is 5 Sunbriar Way, so it's just right down the street, literally, listed at 204, and it took 52 days to go under contract, and it's currently pending at the 199 list price. And so this is really, really good information for me to have, right? I think this would be a very strong comp for me to include because of its proximity, because of its style. It looks the same. So here's a 3-bed 2-bath. Let me just click over here and make sure. So this is a 4-bed 2-bath house, 1,500 square foot. All right, so I'm gonna go back over here. Here's a 3-bed 2-bath, and we can take a quick look at that. So we see this is a completely different property, right? But what we do see is it only took 4 days for this thing to go under contract. So we know there's demand in the neighborhood. It's 1,275 square foot, 3-bed 2-bath. So this is not the same as ours, but it does give us an indication of demand for the neighborhood and what the price per foot was. Obviously, this is a Joel Fortune property, so it's probably a flip. And so this is all the information that we're just kind of taking in, and we're absorbing this information. Let's go back and see what else we got. So here's another. This is a 4-bed, same neighborhood, right? And so we can get an idea of the property's condition. Granite countertops. Okay. And this was, let's see, it closed in April. So not that long ago. But as you know, the market has continued to go up and up and up. What with demand being what it is and all. Oh my God, there's a lot of pictures. I'm really hoping to see the outside of the house. There we go. Okay. So this is a 2-story in the same neighborhood, very, very similar, a little bit bigger than my house, 4-bed 2-bath. This one looks like it's got a converted garage potentially, which might be where that extra square footage came from. Okay. We've got this one, 1,300 square foot, much smaller, and for a much lower price of 142. So we'll just take a look at it real quick. There's only one picture. That's never, in my estimation, a good sign. I always feel like there's something they're not telling me. But this was a FSBO listing and it was already sold. So it was pre-sold when it got loaded into the MLS. So there's not a lot of information that we can deem from that. So cool. All right, and then we have this one. So this is 19 Sunbriar, right across the street. And it's a 3-bed 1-bath, 1,270 square foot. happens to be my listing, which is why I got a call from the guy at 19 Sunbriar right across the street. He said, "Hey man, I see you sold that house pretty fast. Would you mind taking a look at my house?" And so that is literally what happened to me yesterday, and why it was just such perfect timing for this CMA demonstration. So pretty cool. But I know a little bit about this house, obviously. It's not the same. It's much smaller, 1,270 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, and we listed at 184, and it's currently under contract at something other than 184. All right, cool. So now I feel like we have a lot of good information, right? And if I'm content with these comps, and I feel like these comps are really relevant in helping me determine what the 18 Sunbriar property is worth, I can transfer these comps into Moxie Present. And so I would go down to, oops, let me go back, go over to the results screen. And I like to compare, make sure that my results match up with my subject property. In this case, they're a little high, a little low, but they give me a good range. And they're, for the most part, in line with the tax records, the Zillow, and those other automated valuation models that we've seen. One more that I forgot to show you. So I'm going to click over here to my RAIN dashboard. If you guys aren't using Remine, it's really cool for this specific purpose. I know there's a lot of cool ways to use it, but I like using it for its valuation model. So I'm going to go up here to 18 Sunbriar, put it in. So what's cool about Remine's valuation model is they have 3. They have First American, which is a title insurance company, Black Knight, which I'm not real sure what they do, and Redfin, which we all know is another competing brokerage. And so you can see First American has got it at 183,000, Black Knight's 189,000, Redfin's at 201. So that is certainly the highest one we've seen. The next highest one would have been Zillow. So also really good information. And so what I want to do is make sure that my comps kind of sort of jive with the data that the algorithms have for us. And so, and in this case, I feel like they do jive. I feel like it does make sense. And so what I could do if I was confident in my comps, if I wasn't, and if we didn't have good comps, then, you know, obviously we'd have to continue looking. In this case, we were able to pull everything right out of our neighborhood. But if we weren't able to do that, what we could do is go back and modify our criteria. And maybe we want to stay in the same area, the RAIN area, but maybe we're going to ditch the subdivision number, right? And so now we have 179 matches. And so then what we might want to do is we might want to come down and start sifting and sorting by square footage, because our property is 1,500. So maybe we would look at anything from 1,350 square feet to, let's say, 1,600 square feet, right? And now we've cut our matches down to 48. So from 100 and something down to 48. And so we know the ones that we just looked at are probably still in this result. But because we didn't find what we thought were the best results for our subject property, we expanded our search to stay within the same RAIN graph geography. And so, yeah, it's always best if you don't have to do that, if you can get them from the neighborhood. And because the market is so busy right now, it's a little bit easier. But a lot of times you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to expand your search because you're not going to find all of the comps you need in that specific neighborhood. All right. So in this case, I'm going to use the comps that we found in our subdivision, which was 272, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Okay. And then we want to go active, sold, detached. Obviously, we'll get rid of our square footage, and we should come back to our 5 comps in this case. Okay, so this one obviously is the most relevant. It's a 1,550 square foot, 4-bed, 2-bath. It's currently pending. It was $199. So this house is likely identical to the house that we're comping. What we don't really know is how it compares in terms of condition, because we've got 5, pretty crappy pictures here, which don't tell us a whole lot. But I haven't seen the subject property yet either. So I know I definitely want this to be my strongest comp going into this listing appointment blind, because it's so similar to the subject property. Okay. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go to my results screen. We'll go back to the one-line display here. And I'm going to go open up a new window. If you guys have questions or something, feel free to pop in. So Foster, I'm going to go to my CMA, which opens up my Moxie Present. And this is without a doubt, in my opinion, the best way to present just about any information, really. It's really clean and it's professional. So I enjoy using Moxie Present whenever I can. So in this instance, we're going to create a seller CMA. You can see right there. So I hit create new presentation opens up. I select the presentation I want. In this case, it's for a seller. We're going to do a CMA presentation, and I'm going to hit continue. And then we've got templates that we can choose from. We've got some default templates. We've also got some templates that I've created in the past. But in this case, we're going to use the default seller presentation. And we can actually take a quick look at it to see what pages might be included in that. And we can tinker with and edit those pages once we've created it, which is kind of cool. So let's go to quick CMA. Okay, so this is the one that I want to use. It's 15 pages. It's all about the property. It's got a little bit of a cover page, and it's got my profile information at the end. And then, of course, if we want to add or take away anything, we can certainly. We're going to use the quick CMA. I'm going to go down and click continue. And I believe the owner's name was Terry, and we're pulling our data from Rain. Did I not do that right? There, okay, RRY, there we go. All right, we'll just wait for that to load up here. Okay, and so we've got to load in our comps. We know what we could do, actually, what we could do. So let me do this real quick. So this is our property. I'm just going to save the image real quick. Right click, save. I'm going to put that in my downloads, and I'm going to save it as 18 Sunbriar. We'll just save that real quick, and we'll come back over here. I can put that picture right in there, which is kind of cool. That way we've got something to go on. And let's see. So if we have an MLS number, that's great. It'll automatically pull in a lot of the data that we're looking for. In this case, this was a withdrawn listing. Let's see. I wasn't planning on doing this, but let's see how it works out for us. It might be good, it might not be good. Okay, MLS number not found because it's not active. Okay, so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to go to 18 Sunbriar, Sunbriar Way. And so we're just putting in some subject property information. Hampton, Virginia, 23666. And what was the area? It was 104, wasn't it? I believe. And I believe it's called West Briar, maybe. And so what we're looking for is just the basics. It doesn't have to be perfect. So, and we know our square footage is about 1,500, and then 2 bath. Don't know. Okay. You could put in remarks and stuff like that if you wanted to. That's okay. So now what we're looking for is, because we put in an address, it goes in and automatically pulls the comps. This is not necessarily how I use it. And so you can use it this way. Because I put the address in there, it searched the address for any particular comps. This is not how I want to display it though. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit listings. So I've got this. What I want to do is find new comps. And I'm going to use the comps that I found in RAIN. Okay. So I'm going to go back to here. All right. And I'm just going to copy these MLS numbers into the system. So before I do that though, I got to get rid of this because it's going to mess me up. Okay. So MLS numbers. It's not going to want to let me take it out. Sorry guys, that's gotten goofed up on me. I don't normally put the subject property address in there until the end when I'm going to display it, because I want to include the picture and everything to make it look as good as possible. But the comps I always pull from RAIN because we use RAIN every day. We don't necessarily use Moxie Present every day searching for comps. And so and just copying and pasting each one of these. And I'm not going to use the last one because it was a for sale by owner and there was only one picture and I really don't know anything about that property, right? There's no reliable data, in my opinion, because there's no pictures, because it was a for sale by owner. I just don't know what to expect, okay? So here I just pasted, obviously I pasted in the MLS numbers from the comps that I intend to use. And then they all come up and we're just gonna check them right here like this. So now that I've selected each one of them, they're gonna become part of my CMA. You can edit and alter the display order. If you want, your active to be on top, or you want your, sold properties to be on top or something like that. In this case, I don't mind the way it's displaying. I'm okay with that. Okay. If you had a listing that you just felt like was really important that you add, you could do that here and you can enter that information manually, or if it's in the MLS, you could do it there. In this case, we don't have that. So we're okay with the information that we have. Okay. And let's see. So we've selected our comps. So we've got 5 properties now. The calculator comes over here, shows you the low, the high, the median, the square footage, the price per square footage on our solds. If you're okay with what you're seeing here, so you can just click next. So this is the one that I just added. Obviously, it doesn't really exist. So we're going to remove that. We don't want that 0 to alter our data. So this is kind of cool because what it tells us is the average price of the sold properties in the properties that we've selected is $184,950. That may or may not be okay with you. You can totally edit that. You can make it to be anything you want it to be. In this case, I would probably make it a little bit higher, but because again, I'm going in blind, I would prefer to use a range than a hard number. In fact, the only person that I've seen use a hard number is that guy on Love It or List It. You know, he always goes in and he says, this is what your property's worth today. I'm not generally that confident. So I say, based on your property's condition, these are the properties that have sold within our proximity that are similar to yours, leaving us a valuation range of, and this is kind of a cool way to determine what that range might look like. So if you did a 5% deviation off of that 184, it's 175 to 194. If you think that range is a little bit narrow, you can change it. Let's say, what's a 2% deviation, right? What's a 3%? So I like that one, right? So the estimated market value of 184, if you go 3% lower or 3% higher, this is the range we would have. So I'm comfortable presenting that way. And sometimes what I'll do is make some remarks in here and it says, because of your property's excellent condition, or because your property is, requires updated carpeting or fresh paint, this is the range that I feel most suitably represents your property. Okay. And then we click continue again, and you've got this really nice pre-designed, pre-done 14-page CMA. So it does a cover page for you, property summary. So now, because I didn't put any information in here about our subject property, it doesn't really have a lot to go on. But had we completely filled out that first sheet there where I was entering subject property information, then this would be a lot more complete and it would look more complete and more finished. But this is the best part really, is when you've got the side-by-side comps and they're all similar to his in the same neighborhood. This is where I think they get the most value from us because we handpicked the comps to present to them. So very cool. You can do this side by side. And of course, you guys know with Moxie Present, you can either turn this into a PDF and send it over as an attachment, or you can send it to them as a digital slideshow that they scroll through, which I think looks the best personally. And what's great about this too is that all of these links and properties are clickable to your client. Clickable, that's a word. Pricing, everything's really tight, and everything kind of jives with the automated valuation models that we saw, right? So I think that's really good for us in this case. So generally speaking, what this is suggesting, this is what we call a scattergram. And so it's suggesting that the more expensive the home, the longer it takes to sell, right? The lower the price, I mean, look at these 9 days, 4 days. So the lower price homes tend to sell more quickly. And you can see there's a trend line associated with the price of the home in most cases. So 134 days, obviously that's certainly an outlier. At 185,000, my guess is the condition was less than optimal. And again, you can include or exclude any of these pages. Personally, I think the scattergrams are hard to present, and so I don't always leave them in my presentation. So this is kind of neat. So the average estimate was 4% over. So this is kind of cool because if you look at our comp on Westbriar, it sold for 185 and this estimate was 192. This one, 31 Westbriar, it sold for 184 and the estimate was 191, right? So that's really, really good information to share with a seller to say, hey, I understand that you're looking at Zillow and Zillow is telling you it should sell for $475,000. But if we look at Zillow's track record, based on the comps that we've seen in your neighborhood, Zillow tends to overestimate, right? That's a very, very, very powerful slide. And I love that we have a tool like that. So our pricing analysis suggests a valuation range of 179 to 401, 179 401 to 190 498, right? And then had I written some remarks or some comments, they would be in here as well. So, and then of course there's the net proceeds worksheet, which I don't ever take the time to fill out because I love the one that Sage gives us. You go to the Sage and you put in all of the criteria and it does a net sheet for us. I like that one a lot better than this one. It's a little more automated and easier to use in my opinion. And so I would always go out and grab that seller net sheet. And so if you did want to do that and you created a new page, you could add it. You could totally upload, any page that you want into your pages library and then just add it to your presentation. So, which is really cool. I like that a lot. So it would be in your My Pages library. And if you guys were with us a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, you remember I had created a couple of custom pages. And so let's go back now to our pages here. And you can see that I just added this page that I had created, a couple of weeks ago in that presentation. So obviously I wouldn't want this to be in my CMA, but I hope you guys understand that if you create custom content, it's really easy to include it in your presentations in order to personalize it to you and your brand and your whole presentation there. So any questions thus far about what we went through here? Man, you guys are still there. It's amazing. Oh, thank you. So I'm surprised every time I come back. So, is that helpful to somebody? I mean, any questions? Did I go too fast, go too slow? That's how I do it. And I just want to tell you a quick story. CMAs are always estimates of what a buyer might be willing to buy a home for, right? Because ultimately, even having all of this data, we could be totally wrong, totally wrong. I'll tell you a story. I had a listing a few years ago, several years ago, but it's a good story. It's a good lesson, and I will never, ever, ever forget it. So in this story, I had called on an expired listing, and long story shorter, I got the listing. And so it was, the tax assessment was almost $600,000. My CMA suggested 595-ish list price. It had just come off the market as an expired at 650. They had an appraisal done. We had an appraisal done. He paid $500 for an appraisal, a pre-listing appraisal, so that we knew we would get it right this time. The appraisal came back at 600,000. So we listed it at 600,000. We sat on the market for months and months and months. We did a couple of price reductions. We actually got down into the mid fours. We were at 450 when we came off the market. And we couldn't understand because our appraiser said 600,000, the tax assessment said 600,000, and my CMA said 600,000. We thought we were going to be in at least the mid fives, but we're down to 450. After 6 months on the market, the seller's obviously irate. He thinks I suck just as bad as his previous agent sucked, and I lose the listing. He relists it again with another agent whose name I will not mention, and they ended up selling the property a few months later for $375. And so the seller is thinking to himself, I've been paying taxes on a property the county assessed at 600,000. My realtors and my appraisers told me 600,000. What we weren't able to do is to determine what a buyer says that property is worth. And because it was dated, I mean, it was a huge house. It was right on the water. It was absolutely beautiful. except it was still 1972 inside this house. And so while we thought we had taken all of that into consideration, what we learned is that regardless of what the paper says, you have to have a buyer, right? It's not worth $600,000 if you don't have a buyer that's willing to give you $600,000. And at that time, and that point, in that place in the market, the only buyer that was interested in buying that fixer-upper was willing to pay $375,000 for it, and that's it. He had spent over a year on the market between the other agent and myself, and his third listing. And so, while we do the best we can with the information that we have, we cannot accurately predict what the buyer is willing to pay and what the seller would be willing to accept. And so just keep that in mind as a lesson to yourselves that, we're not perfect. And even though we have good information, we don't know what buyer is going to pop up tomorrow or what buyer, would have bought it for more had we stayed on the market for another day or two. You just can't predict that sort of thing. And so we do the best we can with the information we have. But that was definitely a lesson learned for me. Just because the appraiser says it's so doesn't mean it's actually so. So I was newer in real estate at the time, and so I had suggested we get the appraisal, and I had deferred to the appraiser's opinion, and in this particular instance, we all got it wrong. So, yeah. Anybody else have a nightmare story like that? So, let's see. So, I'll just check my notes here. I told you my nightmare. Yeah. What is a CMA resource? The CMA. So, yeah. Questions, comments, concerns?
I thought that was very informative, Jason. I appreciate it.
Okay, cool.
A lot of good information there.
Well, I appreciate that. That's the way I do it every time. I mean, some people Kelly spends days on a CMA, hours and hours. And she goes through and she makes adjustments, this house is brick versus vinyl, and so I've heard some appraisers say, and this is old information, so don't quote me, but, a brick home is worth $5,000 per side more than a vinyl sided home. So as much as $20,000 if it's an all brick home. I don't know if that's necessarily accurate anymore. I've heard that, in-ground swimming pools are worth about half what somebody might have paid. I've heard that, an extra bedroom is worth $10,000. I've heard that a full bath is worth, $7,500. A half bath might be worth $3,000. But again, you have to look to the data. You have to look to the comps, and in today's market, comps are much easier to find because the market's really, really busy. But there is no number that's set in stone, and so I tend to shy away from making adjustments unless they're blatant and they're obvious. If I can't find comps that are in the same square footage, obviously there's going to be an adjustment. Square footage is the most valuable piece of that property we have. And so, if I do make an adjustment, it's going to be first on square footage. It'll be based on condition, not necessarily whether the home has brick siding or wood siding or vinyl siding. And swimming pools, I mean, some people take them and some people don't want them. So I don't think that you can predict, what buyer is going to be willing to pay more for that swimming pool. I don't think that it's that easy to predict the buyers in the market at any given time. So. Somebody? Anybody?
Everybody's quiet, Jay.
No, Evelyn, come on. You always ask me questions.
I know, but they're usually not relevant to the topic. I do have a question, though, I have to admit. So when you went to the NARRPR, I saw Long and Foster at the header of the page, but I must have blanked out when, I don't know how you got to that website or to that. I missed that.
Let me show you. Let me try to show you. So let me move this toolbar out of my way here. Do I have it open? I don't know if I have it open. I'll find it. Okay, so we'll start again. So let me go to narrpr.com. And then if you're not registered, you need to register
I gotcha.
with them, and you got to put your NERDS number in and register. And when you do that, then your reports and everything will be branded to you, which is kind of neat. So like, let's look at this, for example. So this is another one that I was looking at. I don't know if I have the, so let's see. I'm just gonna try to show you something real quick. Bear with me. So here's a report. So this is an RPR report on a property. And so if you put your logo and everything in there, then it comes out branded to you, which is kind of nice. It's got Long & Foster on everything. It tells you what your analysis is. And again, you could literally take the comps out of RPR and put them into Moxie Present. Depends on how you want to present the information. Personally, Moxie is my favorite, but let's see. So if you go back over here, one of the things that you do need to be aware of though, and I just checked with Greg Scott on this a couple of weeks ago, is that Long & Foster listings don't show up in RPR. So if the property is on the market by Long & Foster, it's not going to necessarily show up in RPR because I guess at some point in the past, RPR and Long & Foster got into a and so Long & Foster active listings don't show up. So keep that in mind when you're doing your reports. And so generally by default, I always go to RAIN because as we know, it's there in RAIN. But when presenting information, I think RPR is a great tool, great resource. Really, really easy to create a PDF version of your CMA. You can do long ones, you can do short ones. I mean, you can add it away pages, whatever you want to do. So.
Jason, since you have range of 179 to 190, what would you be listing price for this house?
Good question. And so because I haven't actually seen the home, and because condition is so important, if the house needs work, because it's been a rental property, it may need some work. It may need carpet. It may need paint. It may need, freshened up appliances. I wouldn't commit to a number, but what we did learn through our CMA process is that the median was 184, 184.5, 184.9. And so knowing that, I would tend to, and I also know because we're in a really, really hot market right now for sellers, I'm going to go on the high end of that. So, I think with the market being the way it is right now with multiple offers and there's no inventory, interest rates are ridiculous, I'm going to lean high every time. And so when I meet with this seller, I'm going to say I'm seeing comps as high as 190, maybe even more, depending on the property's condition. So when would be a good time for me to come and take a look at the home? I will present that information to the seller without committing to anything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, appreciate all your help. Thanks.
Does anybody else do something different, completely different? No? Okay, cool. Hey, look what time it is, y'all. It's been 58 minutes.
Woohoo!
Cool. I will let you guys go. Thank you so much for being here. You'll all get a recording of this. I hope it was helpful to somebody. And if you have any questions, obviously don't hesitate to reach out. Call me, text me, email me. I'm always here and always happy to help you. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.